Thank you, everybody. This is really a pleasure to present a case developed by my students, inspired by their social commitment in and around the institute itself. So I'm going to present actually on their behalf, who are my students and who have done this case and provoked me to make the presentation here. The God Makers of Kolkata, Kumortuli Revisited, the name of the case here. Well, this is the beginning of the Devi Paksha, the fortnight of the motherhood celebration, and the cardinal force behind the celebration, the carnival, is the craftsmen who are clay modelers for centuries together in and around Kolkata. But worldwide, Kumortuli is known for their crafty artistry, the intricacy, and the delicate taste of representations. I start with a picture of a carcass of the unfinished idols, because that depicts somehow the plight of the real artisans, real artists who are behind this huge array of festivity. The Kumortuli story goes like this. Located in the north-central part of Kolkata, the history of Kumortuli spans more than 250 years. The British East India Company allotted separate neighborhood quarters for Indian workmen in and around the heart of Kolkata, like Shuripara, the spirit makers, Kolutola, the oil producers, and Kumortuli, the quarters of the clay workers. Kumar, aka Kumor, aka Kumhar in Hindi, is the caste identity of the potters in the traditional sense of an occupational category. So it's a kind of tradition they carry with their lineage, with their clan groupings, and with their practices. In 20th century parlance, they are the magicians who transform innate natural materials into queen-size lives, living almost like another famous potter, Harry Potter. Now, here is one master craftsman who is doing the final touch over one image, and he is so attentive to the work that even the photographer's flashlight couldn't deter him for once. The story of the settlement continues like this. In 1757, the British India has decisively won the political authority at the Battle of Palasi. Unfortunately, the Hindu elites of Kolkata then decided to celebrate the victory of their colonial going-to-be rulers in the form of celebration of Durga Puja. Till that time, artisans of Krishnanagar in district of Nadia, around 50 miles in the north of Kolkata, were the sole group used to make clay idols of various forms and traditions, including the Mahishasura Bimardini form. Invited by the city-dwelling aristocrats, quite a few of them migrated to Kolkata and were settled in the Kumortuli. Literally, Tuli means a neighborhood of a single caste and clan group like, say, Mughal Tuli. Now this is a serpentine by-lanes in Kumortuli. This is particularly crowded with deity. But you know, the stature is slightly lesser than the Durga, because these idols are essentially half-finished or unfinished Saraswati idols. But you know, the population and the amount and volume of work involved in this stupendous. The artists of Kumortuli ritually start their work with the calendar of the first day of Boishak, Bangla Noboborsho, the Bengali New Year Day. However, the most intense and challenging phase of their activity starts on the day of Ratho Jatra in June, Ashar in Bangla, when the first layer of soft and wet earth is put on the straw and bamboo structure. The brisk phase continues from then till autumn, the month of Ashwin in Bangla, till this moment. The detailing, the sense of geometry, the beauty extracted from the locally available recyclable and biodegradable materials by the artisans are simply mesmerizing, awe-inspiring. The awesome creativity becomes particularly inspiring when one looks at the lack of facility and infrastructure at the dingy studios running across the roads and the lanes like a continuous series in the locality, a sea of idols. In this picture, the nimble and vibrating fingers of 80 years old geriatric artist is trying to give the final skin touch before the coloration would take place. When my students went there to have some first-hand experience, the atmosphere was literally repulsive. In their own words, the air smells of rotten straw and garbage. Rain only makes the situation worse by clogging the poorly maintained sewers and drainage systems. The artists of Kumortuli led a miserable life. It's an irony that such hardship never gets reflected in a smile of satisfaction on the lips of the gods and goddesses standing there. It's amazing that in spite of such misery, the artworks they produce have customers in 90 countries across the globe: Europe, North America, Africa, and entire Asia, Oceania, and Australia. And year after year, the same patrons come back to the same lineage, same Mohanbashi Rudropal, same Kartik Pal, to experience what new they have produced in the made-to-order mode. And this is the so-called studio where they used to work. And the entire studio is also acting, doubling as a warehouse. So the ground floor is filled with various stages of making of idols. Then there is a plank, creating a second and third tier, wooden planks-based divisions. And they are also being used as a kind of storehouse, warehouse, and kind of finishing studios for the performance there, dimly lit. Technically speaking, the art and artists of Kumortuli are natural claimants of geographical indicator, GIV called, or cultural footprinting. That means you may have found many such clay model makers across the world, but the unique method, technique, the raw materials, the tactics, and the lineage, the continuity of the tradition is unique only to this part of Bengal and particularly in Calcutta. The product and the process in Kumortuli are still not, fortunately or unfortunately, by the intellectual property right regime. The regional governments of all hues, since the days of independence till date, remained somewhat indifferent to the catalytic creationists of the autumn carnival, the total market value of which is estimated at 40,000 crores. That means starting with the Ganesha till the Saraswati festivity. This entire span, there is 40,000 crores market, and out of which a very minuscule, almost a nano section of the total expenditure is going to the clay modelers, but who are actually the pivotal figures, the artists who make this festivity happen. Despite numerous efforts, the promised state gallery run by the government for showcasing the product and the process of the clay artists in Kolkata has remained a distant dream and as elusive as ever. Now, here's an octogenarian master craftsman, and he is putting the finishing touch. And once again, it shows that he carries, once again, a tradition, a line of apprentice workers who are pursuing his crafts and trying to learn the skills minutely, following his strokes, his movements, and his overall physiological configuration. The work of Kumortuli artisans is an anonymous form of art, with none of the master artists from the lineage ever getting adequate recognition in any institutional form. It is an art mostly handed down from the father to his son, and now from mother to her daughter. Malapal is one of the most prolific clay model maker in Kumortuli these days, quite sought after also. Now the women are also coming and stepping into the field. However, the growing trend among the younger generation, especially with literacy, education, and different sort of aspiration, is that they aspire to be painters with formal training, art college sort of things. Whereas in the market, more theme-based, locally, at the level of the performance taking place, their idols are being produced by renowned artists with various other materials, including fiberglass, plaster of Paris, and name anything in the world, they're making idols out of these things. Now, in this context, the Kumortuli artists are sensing a red herring. They're feeling a kind of disaster in the offing. This is a picture of an artist who is basically would be painting the idols. And that's also a kind of a little bit of historical. Initially, all the pigments, all the colors used were basically extractions of the plants and weeds. From that, for the sake of economizing and for the sake of availability, they gradually shifted to chemical colors. And now, with the pollution bars and scales implemented rigorously, they are trying to make a kind of balance between organic and inorganic. You know, with each product becoming organic and involving organic raw materials are also becoming costlier, which is unsustainable for their economy. These are the people who imagine, create, produce, and supply an unique form of art to the connoisseur and the devotees alike. The irony is the gods and goddesses they make for the omnipotent market is ruthlessly silent about the plight and preservation of a dying art form. Art, since the inception of human civilization, had shared two common traditions. One, human realization of nature in concrete or abstract forms, and two, crafting imagination while negotiating life processes. There is a third issue, often overstressed in a simplistic manner without understanding the essence. The struggle of the artist at the existential, cognitive, and political economic levels. Art, as a form of creative expression needs to survive depending on one indispensable resource: recognition. Recognition of some other human beings, starting from another close individual to a great, very great social collective. This is a necessary precondition of this entire creative labor. Appreciation, accolade, interpretation, internalization, patronization, and institutionalization, all these factors only come later. I told you earlier that women are actually now coming to the fore of taking the role of the master artist. Here, she is engaged in a pious task of giving eye, sight to the deity. Chakhudan, giving the eyes, the third eye to the deity. The Altamira painters were a collective without any expressed mission. The spirit was to declare their existence and feelings for the posteriori. The cave sculptors across the world were often motivated by fairy tale religiosity and silent resistance. In the last 2000 years of human history, culture or artistry is increasingly usurped by three factors of power: militarism, urbanization, and market penetration. A few of the artists, and often the best in the craft, were patronized by the local and regional ruling class. However, protection given in that form was often unstable and piecemeal in nature. Art as a form of occupation and labor has remained and is still remaining a source of lifelong struggle against odds of living. How market is cohabiting with artistry, this picture shows that. This is urban, almost militant, and definitely marketing. However, the over-commercialization of the festivity, like every sphere of societal living today, has also homogenized the skill and the art to reproduce identical replicas in more number in quick time. The Midas touch of profound attachment in the artistic creation has given way to an attitude of branding merchandise. Self-styled, prize-winning artists, most of whom enjoy corporate media patronage, are increasingly eating into the small pie of the regular idol makers. Training the troll is the call of the day. The struggle of the circumstances is forcing quite a few to leave the traditional profession. Can we do something for them? The celebration is also the celebration of the childhood. The filthy backyard of the artist studios. The mud, which is the essence of the creations of the idol, is being made with the footwork of the workers, profane and yet too sacred. And this is my Durga, who is always working in the field, in the studio, and with a smile. Labor demands this kind of patronage of spirit. She is the spirit of the artisans of Kumortuli. This is the list of reference, but I particularly would like to mention Rohitasho Chakraborty. He made this case in his group. He is an IT student of mine. Thank you very much.